What's going on, guys? It's Lorcanabro with some Ursula's Return Day 1 deck list. Ursula's Return has just come out and I'm so hyped for the shakeup it'll bring to the meta. There are a lot of new powerful cards in this set that can slot nicely into existing archetypes as well as potentially introduce new ones. Here are a few deck ideas I've come up with so far for the new set. Bucky 3.0. We recently put out a Bucky 2.0 video on this channel with set 3, and now we've already got some new tools, so now we've got Bucky 3.0. The shell of the deck hasn't changed. We still will have Bucky and Floodborns, but we have picked up Diablo, which is a 3-cost 2/2 with evasive, which says during each opponent's turn, when they draw a card while this character is exerted, we may draw a card. This ability is insanely powerful and is arguably the most powerful card in the new set. This kind of effect has run away with the game potential. If your opponent cannot answer this card the turn you play it, you're just going to start drawing cards and win the game. So this has a very powerful board impact as soon as it's played, on top of the fact that it is a Floodborn, which triggers your Bucky on turn 3. Previously, the only way you could trigger your Bucky on turn 3 was off of a Robin Hood shift. Now we have Diablo, and we also have Aladdin Brave Rescuer, which is a 3-cost 3/3. It has shift, discard a card. We're not leveraging the shift clauses for either Aladdin or Diablo. We're just looking to play them on turn 3 in these decks. When this character quests, you may banish chosen item. So this card, if items are a prevalent deck in the meta, could see this card definitely being good, but here it's a nice statted body with Floodborn to trigger your Bucky on turn 3. So with the addition of both Diablo and Aladdin, we now have very consistent triggers for our Bucky on turns 3 and beyond. We already had access to Jafar on 4, and the rest of the deck doesn't really change. It just gives us a more consistent game plan and a more immediate game plan to punish them with the Buckies. Some other considerations for this deck are the Shift Pegasus and the song We Don't Talk About Bruno, but I prefer those cards a little bit more in our next deck. Our next deck is also green steel, but rather than going for the discard route, it's using A Whole New World and Beast Relentless to close out the game. This deck picked up additional shift lines with the Pegasus 1-drop, which is a 1-cost 1/1 evasive, and the Pegasus Cloud Racer, which is a 5-cost 3/3 shift 3 evasive. And when Pegasus enters play, if you use shift to play him, your characters gain evasive to the start of your turn. This deck previously already had Robin Hood shift on 3. We now have Pegasus shift on 3. We also still play more, so we can Beast Tragic Hero shift on 3, and we can Tinkerbell shift on 4. So we have 4 different ways to shift Sing Whole New World on turns 4 and 3 ways to shift Whole New World on 3. So this deck is capable of some explosive starts and really wants to take advantage of the shift Whole New World lines. We're still playing Diablo just because that card is busted. Right now I've only got 3 copies in here just because of uninkability issues, but I'll definitely consider going up to 4. And then we've also got We Don't Talk About Bruno, which is a 5-cost song, which says return chosen character to their player's hand, then that player discards a card at random. So similarly to A Whole New World, it's a 5-costed song that this deck is able to consistently develop early in the game. So we can turn 3 this very consistently with with any of our shift lines, or turn 4 it. And the idea with this is to either just use it early to gain a tempo advantage, or use it on the same turn that we're going to sing A Whole New World to permanently remove their character. Some other considerations I'd make for this deck are either Benjo or 3-drop Aladdin for item destruction, and Big Cinderella for more shift lines and more staying power against steel decks if the meta warrants it. Alright, so as an Amber Steel enthusiast myself, this is definitely the deck I'm most excited about. While the only new card the deck picked up was Phil, the inclusion of him changes the way that we structure the deck. Phil is a 4-cost 2/3 that quests for 2, and he says your heroes gain Challenger +1, and whenever you play a hero character you gain a lore. Now, this is really becoming a build-around card for the entire deck. So as a result, every other character in the deck, with the exception of Phil, is a hero. So now, instead of using a card like Flute to close out the game and get those last bits of lore, we're going to try and rely on Phil to get those last bits of lore in the late game, while also being able to proactively develop a threat in the early game. So when we get, if we get Be Prepared in late in the game, we can just go Phil and play a couple of small characters, gain X lore, which can pressure out closing the game in the same way the Flutes does. Since we're no longer playing Flutes, we can now run Lanterns, which lets us develop our game plan more aggressively in the early game, and lets us play cards like Beast Tragic Hero and Rockstar Stitch. Rockstar Stitch is always great with Lantern because you can turn 3 shift him, and he combos really nicely with Phil, where if you have both Rockstar Stitch and Phil in play, any of your 1-cost characters will now enter play exerted, draw you a card, and gain you a lore. So you have a bit of a super lore gain draw engine. Some other cards I'd consider for this deck are Aladdin Brave Rescuer, as he's also a hero and can provide item destruction, as well as the card One Last Hope. One Last Hope is a 3-cost song, which gives chosen character resist +2 until the start of your next turn. And if it's a hero character specifically, they may challenge readied characters this turn. This slots really nicely into our deck, as every single character except for Phil is a hero, and can be really nice in a Bucky or Prince John heavy meta to challenge those readied characters with ward that our removal wouldn't give us access to kill. Alright, this next one is a color combination I'm really excited to continue testing out and has been a blast to play with so far. This deck leverages the same green aggro package as last set. We have Curse Merfolk, Flynn Rider, Prince John, Friar Tuck, and the Ursula package. What these cards do is they give us the ability to generate a lot of lore very quickly. And from there, we're looking to close out the game with either the song, A Pirate's Life. It's a 6-cost song that says each opponent loses 2 lore and you gain 2 lore. So we can get either immediate 2 lore gain here, and we also want to run Goofy Super Goof, which is a 4-cost 2/4 with Rush. Whenever this character challenges another character, gain 2 lore. We have all of these aggro cards in the deck that can gain us lore very quickly. Then we can just look to close out the games with, these instant lore game cards such as Goofy and A Pirate's Life. Now, there's a little bit more synergy with these cards than just that though. So we're also running 4 copies of Go the Distance, which says ready chosen damaged character of yours. They can't quest for the rest of the turn, draw a card. So in addition to being a song that's 2 cost, which means we can use our Ursula Deceiver of All to double sing it, we can also use this to ready our Super Goof and gain potentially 4 lore in the same turn, right? So we can do something like turn 3 Ursula Deceiver of All, turn 4 play Super Goof, attack something, use Ursula Deceiver to double sing Go the Distance, untap the Super Goof, draw 2 cards and gain 4 lore. Ursula, Deceiver of All, also can sing together a Pirate's Life, which also doubles the copies, so turning this card into a gain 4 or lose 4 if Ursula is the character singing it. Other than that, we are still playing Diablo just because this card is busted and is an auto include in every green deck. And we're also running the Pegasus Shift line here, giving us another 1-drop evasive character to go with our aggro plan, as well as giving us a shift tool to deal with opposing evasive characters such as opponents' Diablos. We're also playing 4 copies of Brawl, which is a 3-cost action that says banish chosen character with power 2 or less. This hits a lot of characters. It hits Diablo, it hits Ursula, it hits Flavisham, just to name a few, but it's got a lot of live targets. Alright guys, the next one here is Red Blue Ice Block. So this is the latest and greatest version of Red Blue. It is utilizing the pretty much same control package, but is now trying to leverage the card Ice Block, which is a 1-cost item that says chosen character gets -1 power this turn. So we're trying to use Ice Block with both Sisu Daring Visitor, Sisu Empowered Sibling, and Madame Medusa the Boss. All 3 of these characters have banish effects that are restricted based on the power of the opposing character. So we can use Ice Block to reduce the power of the opposing character to ensure that these, which were once conditional removal spells, can more consistently hit. Sisu Daring Visitor is a 3-cost 1/1 evasive uninkable that says when you play this character, banish chosen opposing character with 1 power or less. Sisu Empowered Sibling is an 8-cost uninkable 5/4 with shift 6, so we can shift it on top of our Sisu Daring Visitor. And it says when you play this character, banish all opposing characters with 2 power or less. This deck is really going to play out the exact same way as it was in set 3. It's a control deck, but we're just trying to leverage the card Ice Block to remove additional characters that we didn't have access to removing before. And at the end of the day, we still have access to Be Prepared, so it's just a control deck that is looking to remove everything, control the game, either with Be Prepared or with our character-based removal, and then win the game with our Tamatoa and Bell with our Lucky Dime combo. Alright, the next one I have is Red Steel Pirate Heroes. This deck is really trying to leverage John Silver to the best of his ability. So we do have the pirate package of Captain Hook, Mr. Smee, and John Silver. Because we have John Silver, the deck has 10 locations. It has the Snuggly Duckling, Thebes, and RLS Legacy to try and leverage the resist and lore gain that John Silver gets for each location. The Snuggly Duckling is a 2-cost location. Whenever a character with 3 power or more challenges another character while here, gain a lore. If the challenging character has 6 power or more, gain 3 lore instead. Thebes says during your turn, whenever a character banishes another character in a challenge while here, gain 2 lore. So both of these locations incentivize challenging, and as a result of that, we're playing 4 Mauis and 4 Super Goofies, so we can move them to these locations and just try and gain a ton of lore with these characters. We also play One Last Hope, which can allow them to challenge even readied characters as they're both heroes. Since we're playing so many locations, we also have 4 copies of Jim Hawkins Space Traveler, who's also a hero. Additionally, we're also playing 4 copies of Flynn Rider Frenemy. At the start of your turn, if you have a character in play with more power than each opposing character, gain 3 lore. So this card can be very powerful in the early game, especially against decks that aren't really developing their board with characters early. I'm thinking of, Red Blue Popsicle, for example. If my opponent goes turn 1 Popsicle, turn 2 1 Jump Ahead, turn 3 Fishbone Quill, and turn 4 Flavisham, they've not done anything that would contest with the Flynn Rider. So just by playing this on turn 2, I'm looking to gain, 3, 6, or 9 lore just with this card. He also pairs really nicely with Sisu, who gets 1 power for each card in our opponent's hand. So playing this on turn 3, your opponent's very likely to still have a large number of cards in your hand, which means Sisu's going to have very high power, which is going to trigger your Flynn Rider's lore gain effect. What I like about the deck is operating on multiple axes. So we've got the Jim Hawkins location plan. We've also got the pirate synergy of Captain Hook, Mr. Smee, and John Silver. We've got Flynn Rider plus Maui plus Sisu. And even after all of that, we also have Robin Hood, Shift, Sing Whole New World. So the deck is capable of many different openings, which are all very powerful. The next one is Blue Steel, which is a tried and true from set 3. The only new card I've included in this list is Fortisphere, which now grants us 8 Popsicle effects. Fortisphere is a 1-cost item, which when you play this item, you may draw a card. And you can also pay 1 and banish this item to give chosen character bodyguard until the start of your next turn. Having access to 8 1-cost items that immediately draws a card greatly increases this deck's consistency, and as a result, we're really looking to leverage the fact that most of the time our turn 1 play is going to be either turn 1 Popsicle or Fortisphere. So the way this deck is going to want to curve out now is turn 1 Popsicle or Fortisphere, turn 2 1 Jump Ahead, turn 3 Flavisham to pop the Popsicle or Fortisphere and draw 2 cards. And from there, you're off to the races. Previously, we would play Mickey as our ramp, but I've opted for 1 Jump Ahead to leverage the Fortisphere Popsicle consistency. Other than that, the deck is basically going to function exactly the same, just with slightly more consistency. A card that could be considered for the deck as well is Scuttle, which is a 2-cost character. When you play this character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an item and put it into your hand. Scuttle definitely can potentially make a lot of sense in this deck. I just wasn't sure if 14 items would be enough to consistently leverage his ability. That's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the deck list. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, as that really helps the channel. Keep questing, and I'll see you next time.